Hey everybody, it's Tyler with Whole Property Management here in Denver. And today we're just talking about what's going on in the 2026 rental market and a question that I get a lot lately, which is why isn't my rental moving? We used to get a lease in a week. And really what's going on most of the time, it's not your property, it's not your house, it's just how the market has cooled. There's a lot more competition. Renters have a lot more options. So what that's really moving is prices. It is causing many landlords, I'd say most in metro areas, to offer concessions. And for the folks who aren't doing it right, significantly increased days on market. So, if we think about the reality of what's going on, when vacancy rises, then pricing power drops. So, we've got some of the highest vacancy nationally that we've seen in many, many, many years. And we're seeing tons of concessions. And what a concession is a discount against rent or free rent. So we're seeing a lot of, particularly in the apartment segment, 1 or 2 months free rent just to incentivize somebody to come sign a lease because there's so much inventory. So Zillow is reporting that about 40% of rentals in 2026 have a concession on them. So some type of discount or free rent. That's a little bit skewed because that's nationwide, and where we see in less dense area, rural or semi-rural areas, you're not going to see that as much because there's much less rental stock, much less rental inventory. So the actual number in a city, someplace like Denver, Dallas, Atlanta, is going to be far, far higher than that. So really, there's three levers when we think about how we fix this problem. So number one is price. So when we think about a strong market versus a weak market, really your days on market should not change. The variable that should change is price. So in a strong market, you should have about the same number of days on market at a higher price. And then in a weak market or high inventory market, you should have about that same amount of days on market with a lower price, bigger concessions. So, when we look at, our operation here in Denver, we like to get a lease signed between 2 and 3 weeks. So 14 to 21 days is about average where we get a lease signed. That really shouldn't change in a strong or weak market. Variable that's changing is the price coming down. So what you can use to kind of know which of these three levers is affecting you is if you're not getting showings booked, you're overpriced, period. So if you haven't been able to book at least 2 or 3 tours in the preceding 7 days, crystal ball indicator that you're overpriced. Number two is presentation. So you can have a good price, which gets you showings, but then when people show up to see your property, they're not applying. You're not submitting application. That's because there's something wrong. Like the photos don't match the actual property. It's not clean. It needs repairs. There's something about the perceived value of your property that's causing people to, once they get there, say, no, this is not worth the price they're asking. So, and then the third is incentives. So, you always want to kind of alternate between price cuts and incentives. So my suggestion to you is if you have not been booking tours or getting applications in the first 7 days, your first action is a price cut. So you come down typically in $100 increments. And then the following week, you add or increase your incentive. Now, we're finding that you're going to need a much larger incentive on 1 and 2 bedroom properties because you compete directly with apartment buildings, which have tens of thousands of units available in most major cities. So you're going to need to be ready for that 1 or 2 months free. Now, if you're in a 3 or 4 bedroom townhome, single family home, not as big needed because the inventory is not as high. So you might do your price adjustment week one. Week two, you add a half month free. Week three, still no luck, another price reduction. And week four, another increase in that incentive from a half month to a month. So we got to think about those three levers: price, presentation, and then your incentives. Is the price right? Am I booking tours? Is the presentation right? Am I getting applications? And then using those incentives to kind of bolster the effectiveness of a price adjustment. If you have any questions about this or anything else going on with your rental properties in the state of Colorado, call us 720 737 1373.